Colonel Templar.
Colonel Radec. This is unexpected.
I'd rather we'd met in combat. Like soldiers.
The mighty and merciless Helghast are an icon of PlayStation scum and villainy, and in All-Stars they needed a face to represent them. That face is Colonel Radec, a master tactician always vying for glory in combat. In Radec we have one of the most unique All-Stars, with a polarizing focus on ranged attacks and devastating supers. Load up your rifles and get ready to brave the Killzone.
Do not toy with me.
It's not often in a fighting game that you have a character who's most comfortable at long range, but Radec is just that. With incredibly limited melee options, Radec is less focused on combos and more focused on disruption, with an MO of interrupting opponents and being a general nuisance from safe distance. You'll find Radec's few melee options on the square button. Tap neutral square to rifle butt your opponent. Double tap for a 2-hit combo worth 20 AP. Aerial neutral square is a kick that works very similarly, with the second hit of the combo mini-launching the opponent. If you're planning on trying some long combos with Radec, this is a good move to keep in mind. One tap of forward and square will unleash another 2-hit combo worth 30 AP. The first hit will strike an opponent with Radec's knife. The second will eject them with his pistol. It can be very tempting to spam this move at close range, but if you miss, the entire animation will play out, pistol and all, and leave you very vulnerable. Aerial forward and square, on the other hand, will just fire the pistol, but this is also worth 30 AP. Up and square brings out the knife again for an anti-air attack. This is both very quick and will mini-launch the opponent, but it's very short-ranged, comes out at a weird angle, and won't hit adjacent opponents on the ground. Down and square can take a while to get used to. Radec will cloak and drop a grenade. When he reappears, he will have jumped back slightly from his starting position. The grenade itself doesn't do much damage or have any interesting properties. The important thing is that the cloak allows Radec to move through opponents, dodging attacks and escaping close-range brawls. Make sure you realise what direction you're facing in when you use this move, as you have no control over which direction Radec goes in. He will always jump backwards. Triangle governs some basic firearms. Note that all of these work identically when used in the air. Neutral triangle will fire a modestly long-range burst from Radec's rifle, with each of the 3 hits worth 5 AP. You could hold triangle to continue firing bursts. Strangely, this gun doesn't seem to need reloading. If you've played against Radec before, then you'll no doubt recognise this next move. Forward and triangle fires his sniper rifle. It takes a while to start up, but a successful hit will eject an opponent for 30 AP. Discounting supers, this attack has the longest range in the entire game. You can hit someone from literally the other side of the stage. New players will be tempted to rely on this attack a lot. If you've spent any time online with All-Stars, then you've probably seen this firsthand. And while I agree that it's an excellent move, it's not something you want to spam. The startup is long enough for unengaged enemies to see the attack coming and dodge it, while the recovery is long enough to make you regret using it at anything other than long range. That said, you can start up the attack while airborne with aerial forward and triangle, reducing the opponent's reaction time when you hit the ground, but also making it a bit harder to aim. Up and triangle is another anti-air. This fires a very quick shotgun blast for 30 AP that ejects the victim. Like up and square, this won't hit adjacent opponents. Down and triangle is one of Radec's few bum moves. This fires a grenade that will ricochet off surfaces and explode after about 2 seconds. Think Nathan Drake's up and square, but much faster. Accuracy is the problem here. The ricochet effect makes aiming it impossible. I generally reserve it for firing repeatedly into enclosed spaces to create havoc and scatter opponents. On the circle button, we have some more interesting firearms. Once again, all these attacks work the same way in the air. Neutral circle fires a bolt gun that will attach to both opponents and surfaces. After about 3 seconds, the bolt will explode, ejecting any opponent caught in the blast radius. The explosion itself is worth 20 AP, but attaching it to someone will yield an extra 10 AP. The bolt can't be shaken off, but the opponent can prevent the ejection effect by blocking when it goes off. This is an excellent move for suddenly interrupting an opponent's attack, or leaving them open for throws if they choose to block. But don't rely on it to defend yourself, as the startup is almost as long as the sniper rifle. Forward and circle throws a test-like grenade into the air in front of you. This will momentarily trap any opponents caught in its surprisingly large radius. You can easily follow up with another attack as a result, but the grenade itself is worth just 5 AP. Up and circle fires a diagonal arc rifle beam. Anyone caught in the beam will be trapped and dealt damage in 5 AP increments. If the beam lands a direct hit, the maximum AP yield is 20. This looks like a long-range anti-air, but it's a tad too slow for the time it takes to react to an incoming enemy. However, since it passes through environmental objects, this is a crafty tool for ambushing opponents from below. Finally, down and circle triggers a short-range flamethrower. This pushes opponents back for 5 AP per hit, with a maximum yield of 30 AP. I find this particularly useful in creating some breathing room, whether it's to ready a mid-range attack or make an escape. Don't try and whip this out at extreme close range though, as the startup is quite slow. Like I said at the beginning, combos aren't really Radec's thing, at least not in my opinion. Finding a practical burst combo turned out to be an impossible task, and by practical I mean one that doesn't involve a wall. So instead of combos, let's call this section Tactics. What to do with Radec depending on the situation you find yourself in. This first tip can apply to any character, but it's worth mentioning here. Remember to block when an enemy gets close, and wait for an opening to counter with forward and square. If they get so close that they could grab you for an unblockable throw, you can evade them and then follow up with down and circle to give yourself more space. Or you could drop a surprise grenade with down and square, which doubles as an evasive maneuver and an attack that's very difficult to interrupt. If you want a surefire way of getting an opponent out of your face, try grabbing them with Radec's up throw. When the opponent is mini-launched, Radec will recover quickly enough for you to blast them away with up and triangle. This also leaves you with plenty of room to pick up the AP they drop. If the stage you're on is particularly spacious, try this simple combo. Eject the opponent with forward and square. If their flight path is unobstructed, you can follow up from long range with forward and triangle once you've cooled down. Proceed forward and square with aerial neutral square, or down and square if you can, for extra effect. Speaking of down and square, it's no meter builder but is otherwise extremely useful. Dropping one near an opponent that's suffocating you will result in one of 3 things. If they disregard the grenade and keep attacking you, the explosion will interrupt them and give you an opening. If they stand their ground and try to block the grenade, you can move in with a throw like the one I just mentioned. Or they might run away, putting some distance between you and them, which of course is where Radec has the advantage. The best place to set up a forward and circle test-like grenade is near a wall. Ricocheting an enemy off said wall with an ejection attack, like forward and square or forward and triangle, makes trapping them much easier. Here's a handy little long-range combo that makes use of this tactic. Throw a test-like grenade with forward and circle between you and your opponent. Press forward and triangle to hit them with the sniper rifle. While they're flying backwards and ricocheting off the wall, you should be running towards the grenade. When the opponent is trapped, you should now be in range to blow them away with up and triangle before the grenade disappears. Mastering Radec's unique playstyle is for naught, however, if his supers aren't up to scratch. Thankfully, this is far from the case. In fact, I would go so far as to say that Radec has the strongest overall trio of supers in the game. His level 1 is the Wasp Launcher. Upon activation, Radec will be routed to the spot and a crosshair will appear. Pressing one of the attack buttons will fire the launcher in the direction of the crosshair, taking out the first opponent it hits. If you move the crosshair over an enemy, it will turn red. Pressing an attack button at this point will launch a heat-seeking shot that will chase down its target. While the blast radius is pretty small, making multiple kills unlikely, this is the longest ranged level 1 in the game. But there are 2 things you must bear in mind. 1. The further away you are, the more time the enemy has to react and evade the super. And 2. Don't take forever in lining up your shot. You are completely vulnerable while doing so. His level 2 is a bit more basic. This fires an arc cannon whose range, like Spike's level 2, is only limited by the environment. It's much quicker than Spike's level 2 though, and the continuous beam means that opponents who jump to avoid it might still be caught out on the way down. It's not a near guaranteed triple kill like Parappa's level 2, but it's up there. And then we have his level 3. Obviously we've got a few more characters to go through before we start talking about the best level 3, but I can assure you that Radec will definitely be in that conversation. He'll jump into a jetpack, allowing you to bombard the stage with heavy machine gun fire that is nigh on impossible to avoid. Even the most absent-minded person will be able to get 3 or 4 kills with this. A Radec veteran, on the other hand, should have no problem nabbing 6 kills every time. Make sure you remember what order you took out everyone the first time, and then take them out again in that same order for that sweet sextet. You don't want to waste time by firing on an opponent that is still in the respawn's invincible state. Radec is an advanced character through and through, and definitely the least accessible all-star we've gone over so far. His focus on ranged attacks might be off-putting, but if you can adapt, the payoff is tremendous, an unquestionable command of long range, and 3 excellent supers. Let's wrap up with our key tips. Radec's short-range arsenal might be limited, but it's something that you're just going to have to master. Remember to be defensive and wait for your opening to push your opponent back. Down and square will help with this. Try and keep Radec out of the air. The majority of his attacks have a very small radius, and the only one that's directed downwards is down in triangle, which, as we established, is a bum move. I know it's tempting, but don't rely on the forward and triangle sniper rifle. Your opponents will make you regret it. Mix up your ranged attacks to keep your foes on their toes. Finally, any one of Radec's supers is a great option for scoring kills, but the potential 6 from the level 3 is ultimately the way to go. Practice with it to reach that total, and obviously practice with Radec himself so you can confidently reach that level 3. That's us for today. I've been Jack from the Beard Network, thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon with another All-Star Guide.